G'day, legends, and welcome to the Celtic Down Under podcast. I'm your host, Jared, and joining me tonight are Liam and John. How are you, John?
I'm doing good. I'm a little bit frazzled, in that same way that when you've been standing in the sun all day, you just get a bit of sun stroke, whatever it's called. I've been doing a lot of field work recently, so it's getting hot in Brisbane. It's getting 28, 29s. So yeah, but it's nice, pleasant.
How are you, Liam?
Still breathing, so I've had a better week than some. But all joking aside, it was news came through on Friday morning about what was going on, and when I finally sat down and watched the TV, and I'm not gonna lie, I was crying at bits and I was getting emotional, but overall, season 5 of Cobra Kai was excellent. Anyway.
I knew where that was going, so I'm like, I'm not. Yeah, but, got to watch that. We were chatting yesterday. Got to get into it. So, got a whole bunch. Got a whole bunch of that to do. So I'm going to binge watch that. But yeah, anyway, well, it was funny because last week's pod was me and Sean, and we're talking about, oh yeah, we're going to do the transfer window rehash, and we're like, oh yeah, it's But then we had 3 games to review, and we're like, no, there's only 1 game this week coming up. Oh, we'll leave the transfer window until next week. Thankfully, we did, because there was no games on the weekend. So, that's actually worked pretty well for the old Celtic Down Under podcast. So, happy days.
Silver linings.
Got to find a positive in, I don't know, a positive.
Yeah.
And I'm waiting for comments to come through now. So what we'll do is we'll get onto that. But before we do, just if you're watching the podcast on YouTube and you haven't already done so, please hit that like button. Helps with the algorithm. Hit subscribe and notification bell so you get notified when we go live each Wednesday. If you're listening to the audio format on the podcast, you guys are legends. Also hit that subscribe. We really appreciate it. We're trying to grow our presence with the Celtic Down Under podcast. It's been going for 3 years and it's getting strength to strength. So, yeah, it's looking forward to tonight's pod and we'll have a bit of a chat. So, how do we want to start? We've got a Twitter Q&A and we've got transfer window rehash. I think we can start with the transfer window and then we'll roll on to the Twitter questions and then we'll go through everything else.
Sounds
Good. Yeah.
I did some preparation for last week's pod, which I rolled over, which you boys haven't seen. So, according to Transfer Market, the website, how much do you think the total value of the players we brought in this off-season, including Jota and Carter Vickers, what do you think their total market value on Transfer Market would have been? Now, it's in euro as well.
15 million euros?
I'll go a bit higher and say 22.
Okay. So the total amount that we spent, we actually outlaid 23.68 million euro.
God.
The total market value, according to Transfermarkt, 45.03 million.
Oh,
So
nice.
So we've got some absolute talent coming in. Now,
15. Jesus Christ. That's very good. Yeah.
Now, the funny thing is when you go to the departures, which I'm just trying to scroll through the start of that. There we go. The total sum that we brought in and the total market value of the players departing. What do you think those would have been, boys?
The total value of the players departing.
Yeah. You got to remember there's players that are left on freeze as well and stuff like that. So,
yeah. I don't know. Maybe 10 million euros.
We're talking about the current transfer value of those players if they were sold, not what we got for them because they might have left on a free, right?
Correct. So the market.
Okay. Right. Yeah.
Right.
So everyone who's departed from the end of last season through to now.
26 million euros.
I was going to say 27. So he's
27.28 million is the market value, and the amount we brought in, leaving out the undisclosed because those ones we won't know for a while, is €1 million for Julian. That was it.
God, right. There
So
you go.
what we'll do is we'll discuss the players that have departed, and then we'll talk about who come in. I know this is a bit of old news, but this is some talking points anyway.
Yeah.
Julian has gone. Market value £4.5 million, sold for £1 million to Montpellier. Nir Bitton has gone to Maccabi Tel Aviv. They valued him at 800,000 free transfer. Ewan Henderson 325,000 on a free. Kerr McInroy is valued at 300,000 to Killy on a free. Karamoko is valued at less than Kerr McInroy. They got him at 250,000, and he's gone to Brest. Afalabi, me boy, 125,000 off the Bohemians. Luke O'Connell, 100,000 of Barnsley. Bolingoli, they've got him as $1 million is his value and as an undisclosed fee. So he's one that we may get something for in the future. Ross Doohan, going to Tranmere, 250,000. Albion Yeti, 2.5 million on a loan transfer to Sturm Graz. So we could get something on him. I think we got a future fee on that one. If my memory was right, I think it was about 2 million. Yeah, it was a 2 million option to buy there. And then we've got Barkas has gone. Apparently his value's at €1 million off to Utrecht. Mikey Johnson, 800,000 on loan to Victoria Guramiris, or however you say that. Liam Scale, 600,000 on loan to Aberdeen. Sorrow on loan to FC Aruka for 500,000. Uragiri, 500,000 on loan to Ostend. Apparently they've got an option to buy there as well. And then we've got Montgomery on loan to St Johnson. Liam Shaw on loan to Morecambe. Johnny Kenny on loan to Queen's Park. Owen Moffat left for 100 grand to Blackpool. And Tom Rogic, my list said without a club. Well, as of yesterday, West Brom. So that's everyone who's left from the first team squad from last season. Fair bit of turnover. So how many was that? Yeah, about 17, I think that was, departures. Massive turnover.
Well,
yeah, I'll be honest, half of those players you mentioned there I forgot were actually still at the club, to be quite frank with you.
Yeah. Or were.
Yeah. And then you get to arrivals, right? And you look at it and go, now the one thing I didn't mention, average age of the player signing at the club. What do you reckon that was? The guys coming in.
Are 24, 25?
Aye, about that, yeah.
23.8, so perfect. They're not even hitting their peak yet.
Yeah.
And they've all got a lot of, on sale value. So we got Jota. Apparently we paid €7.3 million for him. Carter Vickers, €7 million. You got Bernabei was €4.35 million. Haksabanovic, €2.5 million. Maeda, 1.53. We've got to include that. Oliver Abelgard, we got him on loan for $1 million. So realistically, you look at it, and as Vanessa said in the comments here, a lot of dead wood there. Good to get rid of them all.
Yeah.
Spot on. Like, we had an overly inflated squad, and then you look at it, and it's like 6 first-team signings. So I look at that and go, I'd rather 17 out, 6 quality players come in to make the first team better. What are you boys' overall thoughts on the transfer window, John?
Well, yeah, much like the comments, I think there's a lot of trim in the fat, which is good. I mean, it's that happens. That's happened to us a couple of times in recent years, anyway. It's a lot of young players that are in the B squad or reserves, if you like, bench warmers. That I think is disappointing, because I think a lot of us talk about, we don't have that clear pathway still. There's a big jump still, even though we've been talking about it a lot. And it's a shame to see that. But we still have a couple of, Celtic youth making its way into the first team and stuff. So, fair enough. These guys just didn't cut it. They got to an age where they should have cut it maybe a year or two before, and they just didn't. Dembele's a shame, but I think his size really let him down. I mean, like, he just didn't grow quick enough for us, so he's gone on to other things. I think I really liked Julian. I thought Julian was good for us. I think his injury really, that ended his career for us, really, or his Celtic career. So I guess what else can we do? He was never getting in the team. It's just no synergy there. So, and he just wasn't as good as the defenders we had. But I think overall, I'm quite happy with those departures. I mean, especially Ayeti one as well. Like that's just he was stealing a wage sort of stuff. He didn't even care anymore. So I think overall, those departures, you can't really say no to them. I mean, Rogic was a shock, but and so was Beton. But they had been with us for so long, and maybe they just needed something different. Again, they were both in rotation, but they weren't really lighting it up for us or anything. So I don't think we've gotten weaker, that's the main thing. I think all of our departures are players that we would want to have moved on or not been bothered if they did. And I think that just makes it a massively successful window.
Yeah, I have to agree with you there, especially moving on a few guys. Sorry, Liam, I'll come to you in a sec, but
go ahead.
Just on Ayeti, Barkas, Bolingoli, getting those three out of the club in particular was key in terms of freeing up the wage bill. So that is a big thing. You get guys like Barkas and Ayeti who can go and actually play and hopefully put themselves in the shop window so we can get something for them in the future. It's good to see. Before I come to you, Liam, I'm going to bring this comment up from Kevin Graham. Morning, Truce. I just found a custard donut that I had hidden from the kids. Happy days, it's edible. The follow-up to that is that's like getting money for a Yeti, me finding that. That's the reason I brought it up. The punchline there. So now, Liam, we'll throw to you about what your thoughts on that was.
Well, it was I think the transfer window has been in place since 2002, and I think you can make an argument that this has been Celtic's best ever in terms of incoming, outgoing. We got out pretty much every player we wanted to get out, be it on loan or permanently. Every player who was not part of Ange's plans is out the door, basically. And every player that we've brought in is there to go and compete for a first team place. There's not one of those signings that will play less than 20 games this season, barring injuries, I don't think. Even Siegrist is going to become a very important player, possibly in cup games and league games if Joe Hart's had a particularly busy Wednesday night or whatever. You could easily see him playing, like I say, 15 to 20 games over the course of the entire season. And that is so. I can't remember the last time Celtic did that. There's always been at least one or two players that we brought in. You've been like, he's one for the future, or he's there as a backup. No, none of these guys are that. Every one of them is there to be an integral part of the squad, and that is just amazing. It really is.
It's what we keep talking about, Liam, where we say it's a squad game. It's not about the starting 11. Brendan Rodgers used to talk about, it's about not just about the starting 11, it's about who finishes games. Well, now it's not just options of who's finishing games and who's starting games. It's who are we going to start and what options are we going to have from the bench? Like, we can still make 5 subs. We've got such a depth of talent in the squad there that, as we saw in the Ross County game, we can just make pretty much wholesale changes, all but 2 or 3 players, and still go and win 4-0. Like, there's that much depth in the team that it's a squad game.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. I can't remember the exact quote right, but Andrew's interviewed recently about who he's going to be playing at defensive mid and stuff, and he was talking about how he can now really, to an extent, play McGregor, Moy, and Abelgard in that position, and he was saying but they're 3 very different defensive midfielders, so he will play one that suits the opponents or suits the flow of the game. That's what we've been wanting for 5, 6, 7 years. Not just 2 for every position, but I want this type of technician for the right environment every single time. That's all you can ask for, and I don't know how. It's all lined up, but Angie's managed to do that in less than 2 years. That's incredible.
And the thing is, that runs through the entire team, because when you think about it, Maeda, Abada, Jota, Haksabanovic, Forrest, that's 5 very different but equally effective types of winger you've got there.
Yep.
Ralston offers something different from Juranovic. Bernabe offers something different from Greg Taylor. Throughout the whole team, you've got this diversity of skill sets as well as the depth of quality.
And it's a good point to bring up Forrest as well, because I don't think he's going to completely. I still look. I'm definitely biased towards him because I actually love him as a player, but I don't think he's done at Celtic. I think he's still got a role to play, and scored some big goals for us in recent years. Big goals. So Forrest has still got a part to play. So I reckon we'll probably see more of him, especially with the high rotation and all that.
I think we'll see more of Forrest in like the cup competitions, and say if we're playing, because we're basically playing 2 games a week now with the rotation, as you've just said there, John. I think where we'll see Forrest will more be, okay, we'll get him in the squad if we're playing away at a few pitches, the ones that don't really suit the way we like to play. Like if you're away at St Johnson or something like that, that's the sort of game he'll play at. Or away at Livingston, that's the sort of game you'll see him play more than likely, because he's got that experience. He's been in the league. He's been there, done that. So I reckon we'll probably more see him in those sort of situations rather than seeing him, at Celtic Park against Rangers or at Celtic Park against Aberdeen or against Hibs or Hearts or those sort of guys.
Yeah.
There was one I left off my list of incomings, and as an Australian, I need to slap myself upside the head for doing it. I left Moy off the list. It was like free, so that's probably why. But yeah. So I've got a couple of comments I wanted to bring in here as well. Vanessa has commented, Lennon bought a lot of duds.
Yep. Well,
he bought a lot of players who had good pedigree but didn't do it at Celtic. I wouldn't say they were duds when he signed them. I think maybe that's a wee bit unfair. Yeah, became duds. Because basically the whole team were duds that year, let's be honest.
Wow, that's a very good point, yeah.
I look at it as Bolingoli right now. Like, if he came in, when at the timing he came in, with his pedigree, the league he'd been playing in, the style of player where he liked to get up and attack, but then he also was a sort of ducking in left back. Bolingoli was the sort that when he first come in, if he had Ange in the chair instead of Lenny, he would have suited that system. But with all the crap that had happened in the past, it was just too much. It was too far gone to salvage that. So, and I think with Ange, probably thought he was a bit too big for his britches as well. But Kevin Graham's also got a comment here. Interesting to see the wage bill difference, as Carter Vickers and Jota will now be top earners. Correct, but when you look at who's gone out, Rogic would have been one of our higher earners. Bitton, because of his years at the club, he would have been on a fair whack. Julian would have been on a fair chunk of change. So just from those 3 alone, I think you'd be able to definitely cover the wages of Carter Vickers and Jota coming in on a permanent.
Yeah, because I wouldn't say either of those were on. I think maybe that's the point Kevin's making there, but I wouldn't say they're on especially much. I'd probably imagine McGregor's on the most, but
yeah, it would be.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, maybe. Well, we've got to wait for a whole almost 6 months now, don't we, until next AGM to really get the details and stuff. But yeah, maybe December's financial statement will shed light on that.
Yeah, we'll keep an eye on that, and I'm sure Liam will have some opinions when he sees the financials, because he's always all over that with a fine-tooth comb.
No, the thing is, though, that's the kind of investment you can afford to make when you know you're getting Champions League group stages. I said a minute ago this has been Celtic's best ever transfer window, and it's because we've done it safe in the knowledge that we don't have to worry about getting bumped out by a Midtjylland in the 3rd round this year,
Yeah.
Another thing as well, though, another thing on that I want to bring up is that, as you're saying, we're guaranteed Champions League, but also it's another thing, in my opinion, is we got the players in early. And in other years, we're going through Champions League qualifiers, you'd want to get the players in early because get them in, bet them in, play the qualifiers. But the club didn't want to extend the money, spend the money, and bring these guys in and then be like, oh, we didn't make it, now we have to sell. Because we're in already, it makes sense. Okay, get them in early and off we go. So I think not only have we brought in quality, but we brought them in early, we've betted them in, and yeah, we haven't missed yet.
It's not just that we brought them in early, because you're absolutely right, but we also absolutely got the January window spot on. And that was, I mean, look, for me, entirely down to Ange. He knew what he wanted from the J League, and he said, which were clearly not on Celtic's radar in the slightest bit. And he went, these people, go get them in the January window, because that's when it'll be easier for us to get because of the whatever, blah, blah, blah. Went and got them, no dramas. Got them in.
Yep.
I mean, I still remember, I might have been Kyogo, where we just signed him and we're like, oh, we've just signed another person from the J League. And who is this dude? Fair enough. Here he comes.
Liam was the one who let us know. Like,
yeah.
he was tweeting Japanese, sent it onto us, and we've sent it out. And then 2 hours later, Celtics released it.
I was quite proud of that day because I scooped the daily record by about 8 hours purely thanks to time difference.
Imagine, can we just like reflect on that for a second? We managed to sign Kyogo, not knowing who he was, and it never really was a big, like, it just kind of just happened and nobody really, and he's become such a massive player and that sort of player for us. That's incredible. I don't think I think that will be it'll be a forgotten thing eventually, but that's got to be one of the most interesting and impactful transfers we've had.
But the thing is, it's not just the J League. When you look at it, we went into the Russian league to get Haksabanovic, to get Starfelt, and to get the Danish fellow whose name I still haven't figured out how to pronounce. That's another unfancied league, but one that if you actually take the time to watch is pretty decent quality. So I think we are benefiting from having money that is, of a decent level, but also we don't have the ingrained snobbery that someone in England would, for example.
The funny thing is, you look at it, Liam, as you're saying, you look at it, it was a 4.5 for Kyogo, wasn't it? So that's like the J League transfer record on the way out.
Yeah.
That's what that was. And then it's 4 million for Starfelt, or 4.5 for him to Russia. And then his team gets relegated. And then we get Haksabanovic on a knockdown, and we get Abelgard for a year with the potential to sign him. So you look at it and go, it's not just being smart with our cash. It's also like, identifying these players. So, I think we've been pretty clever like that.
Aye, and the thing is, that is something that's going to continue, because I don't doubt for a minute. I mean, even Abada's another one. Now we've signed a few Israeli players down the years, but again, Israel isn't where you go to look for a winger who's going to score a brace against the Huns. That's kind of but that's what we got. And it's amazing to think that, and not to be political, but this is one thing where the whole Brexit thing has actually kind of worked in Celtic's favour, because I can't remember exactly, but there used to be rules that like any non-EU players that you signed had to be on a certain wage level, whereas with the UK not being in the EU anymore, that doesn't apply anymore. So we can bring in Japanese players, Israeli players, Australian players, and we don't necessarily have to pay the top whack that we used to.
You left one out there, Liam. Argentinian players.
I was thinking in my head, is he Argentinian? From Uruguay. Yeah.
And Carter Vickers as well is technically American. So
American, yeah.
So the funny thing is, like, Ange has got a history of when he was up in Brisbane and at South Melbourne, he was over. He's got good contacts through South America. He went to the Club World Cup, played in Man United at a game. I think they played at the Maracanã, if my memory was right. So you look at that and go, the contacts that he's been building for 20 plus years in South America, he had a few good, I think he had a good Brazilian or something when he first got to Yokohama, if my memory is right. And at Brisbane, he had players. And then he replaced that guy with a Serbian defender or a Croatian defender or something. But yeah, he's always been in that market. So if we don't have to get players of a certain level, they have to have played so many like full internationals and all that to get work permits now to get guys in. It's even easier.
So are you saying, Jared, that we're to expect more coming in from South America? Would that not surprise you?
I'm saying it wouldn't surprise me if he's looking there, trying to identify players for when their leagues, if there's value for money there and it's a market we haven't really been in, it wouldn't surprise me if he did bring more guys in from that market because so many players down there.
Yeah, that's brilliant. I think we talked about that when Laxalt came in, saying that we should be really exploring the South American market more. So hopefully that does
South
happen.
American we'd signed before Laxalt was who? Raphael Scheidt, wasn't it?
Fuck yeah, well, I couldn't even tell you.
Or
Yeah.
Juninho, one of those two. But he was playing down in Middlesbrough. So that's the way I look at it. There's options there.
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah, well, that's what it's all about, really, isn't it? Like we're definitely getting priced out of places where we would have not. We still kind of expect us to go. Like I don't know, like the Baltics, maybe Portugal. Well, I ain't getting out of Portugal, but Central Europe, probably most African countries to an extent.
I'm going to say even Holland and Belgium. Like we used to go in Holland, and we get guys like Virgil. We get guys like, and we had Dirk Boerka for what $3.5 million. You get Virgil for 2.2 million. You're getting players coming through there. You get Wanyama for like 900,000 coming from Belgium. Now those leagues have developed that much that the talk is they're forming the Benelux League, and it's going to be the sixth biggest league in Europe when it all starts, and their TV money is going to be higher than what the French are getting. So you look at it and go, that's not really a market we can shop in. Yes, we got Jack and Mackets there for cheap, but that was more because his team got relegated rather than the player that he is.
I mean, but it's a good point, though.
The odd one from there, but I think we're being priced out of those sort of markets now.
Yeah, I think that's exactly that's what I was gonna say. Yeah, like I still think there's deals to be had there. I still think we'll find, semi-regularly a couple of players that you would think, oh wow, okay, fair enough that we managed to get this one cheap. I also don't think we're gonna see more of. We're either gonna see more of these 4.5, 5 millions from places like Russia and Japan, etc. But if we do start shopping in the European window and what we've discussed more, a 5 million player is not what 5 million was 5 years ago. That's to say that 10 times as fast. You have to be spending the 7, 8, 9s. I mean, we spent 9 on Edouard, who was a fantastic player, but he was a PSG reserve. That's the sort of money you have to spend now if you're going to be shopping in that type of window. The market's just stupid.
Got a funny one for you. You look at £6 million player years ago was Baduka, was Sutton, was the Hartson wasn't even that. And then what's his name? And then you look at it, guys like Efren Juarez was like 4.5, 5 million. So that's Kyogo money. There's your difference. That's like a decade ago or whatever. So Kevin Graham's come through with a comment that ties into what I said. It was all to do with work permits in the past. Also, Mark Lawwell's City Group remit was South America. That ties in perfect to Ange's history and his contacts, plus Mark Lawwell coming in with his history and his contacts in South America. Ding, ding, ding.
Yeah.
You expect to see more of them.
Although that's definitely a market that's already been, I'm pretty sure the Spanish are always over there trying to buy players.
Portuguese and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah. But you're right.
We can't be in the same market as those clubs. If we identify the guys early enough and get them over as soon as they're 18 years old, or sign them up and loan them for a couple of years and bring them over when they're 19, 20, fine. Like, it's all about doing your work early. But anyway, got any last things you want to do there, or should we crack on to the Twitter Q&A?
Nah, that's it. Good window. It was a good window.
Yeah.
Bloody brilliant window.
Aye.
All right.
The most effective window since the one Lee Harvey Oswald used. Anyway.
All right, everyone. Folks there, let you all just throw into that. While we're doing that, I'll just get the Twitter questions up and put the thing up there. Stay connected, everyone. The Twitter handle, the Instagram handle are down the bottom there. You can find us on Facebook and YouTube. Celtic Down Under, just search for them. We're on there, just look for the kangaroo logo. It's pretty distinct. But yeah, we'll we'll get straight into these Twitter questions. So, we have one from Lumfoy. Hatate, O'Reilly, and Juranovic will get poached at the end of the season. What's your prediction for who gets the highest transfer fee? And he's got a second question. Does Jens keep his starting position at centre-back even when Starfelt returns? So we'll go with the first question there about Hatate, O'Reilly, and Juranovic. What's your thoughts on that, John?
I don't think they're going to get poached at the end of the season, first of all. Because that would be pretty... anyway, that's another thing altogether. I think Juranovic will get the most, personally. But I wouldn't, because I just don't think the other ones have had yet the same opportunities to shine and all that. But I think I wouldn't be surprised if very quickly they all went for something similar. I mean, they're all currently worth 20 million in today's market. And that's mostly on, we've just brought them in, we don't want to sell them, and that's the current state of the market. So if they did want to move on and it was right, and long contracts and all that, who knows how much they could go for in the future. It could be more than, Dembele or Tierney. Although I don't think they're that caliber, but that's just the market nowadays. Keeps going up.
And Liam?
Same as John says. I don't actually think those players are going to go. But let's just say hypothetically that they all did. I think O'Reilly would go for the most, for the simple reason that I believe he's got a shot of making the Danish World Cup squad, and I think Denmark will go further in that tournament than Croatia or Japan. So he's going to have the bigger shop window.
Fair enough. So for me, right now, if they were to go based on their current form and not factoring in the remainder of the Champions League group stage performances, World Cup performances, and all that potential, Juranovic would go for the most. As you guys have said, O'Reilly will probably go for more than Hatate, but O'Reilly and Hatate haven't played 100 senior first-team football games yet. So to me, they are still young in their football careers. Even though Hatate's, 23 or something like that, is he, Lance?
Yeah.
He came through the uni system, so that's why he hasn't played as many. O'Reilly's, 21 or something like that. So, and Juranovic is 26 or 27, something like that. So I think Juranovic is a more seasoned pro. He'll probably go for more now. He's probably the one out of the three that if we were to sell them, he'd be hitting his peak. Selling now on his peak would get the most for him. But whatever money we come in, as long as Andrew's still in that chair, he's gonna find some quality to replace him.
For sure. Yeah.
The second question was, does Jens keep his starting position at centre back even when Starfelt returns? One word, yes.
Yeah, I think so as well. Unlike Sean, I quite like Starfelt. I don't think he's a bad player at all. I think he's got a mistake in him, but I think a lot of our players have mistakes in them because that's
modern in Scotland.
Exactly. Yeah, that's just the way it is for us. I think Jens is still a little bit, for me, the way that he plays is still a little bit like a deer in the headlights. Still think for me, he kind of plays like he's a bit timid sometimes. But I think for everything, Starfelt is very quick to do rash decisions. I don't think I've seen Jens do that yet. So I would give Jens a run and see how it goes. But that's just me. That's my opinion.
Well, on that timid thing there, John, that's something Peter Grant said when he had him and O'Reilly at Fulham together, where he was saying, like, the fact that Jens went off and played senior football and, against physical strikers was actually what he needed to strengthen and get roughed up and get that physical development that he needed. He was always one of the more skillful players, but they weren't sure if he was going to be a defensive midfielder or a centre-back because of the physicality.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, though, the timid thing, depending on how you interpret it, it's not necessarily a bad thing. I read a quote this morning, can't remember who from, somebody, one of these things you read on the internet. And it was, I think it was Wan-Bissaka of Man United saying, I love to fly into a tackle. He says, if I get to the end of the game and I don't have the highest tackling statistics, I'm disappointed.
Oh, yeah, that was one.
And then
yeah.
Paolo Maldini
said,
if I have to fly into a tackle, I've already made a mistake.
Yep. Yep.
So,
Yep.
you know, I
Wan-Bissaka
know which one
at
I'd
Man
rather
United.
have in my team, put it that way.
I know Arsenal back in the day when Arsene Wenger went in, they had the centre back pairing. I think it was Keown and Adams or someone like that. They had a bet between them that the guy would have to buy the other one beers that like after the game, whoever's shorts were the dirtiest.
Mm.
I remember that story from when I was a kid. So yeah, they actually had that sort of thing going on where it was like, if you had to fly in for a tackle and cover for your teammate, well then, or if you had to slide tackle, clearly you got to keep your feet. You should be good enough to do it. And then when Sol Campbell come in, it was more of the same. So yeah, it was,
Surely Gary Lineker wins the dirtiest shorts in the Premier League when he shat
it's full
himself.
of shit, right? All right. We'll get to the next question. So Mark Duffy says, there is a special thing happening and Ange has built it. The players are living it and the fans are watching it unfold. Will this be the fairy tale we dream of? So it's amazing to see, like, seeing Ange do so much over the years and then get him finally gets his chance in Europe and it's at my club. It's just the best feeling. And seeing how well all the talk about how, Ange isn't, who's this guy, who's his poster, got no clue sort of stuff and all that crap that we had before he even started, to see where he's come now and how much the fans are loving him and all this sort of stuff. It's amazing. And will this be the fairy tale we dream of? Depends what the dream is. For me, we won the league last year. So the key thing is let's win the league again this year. But I want to progress in Europe. That's what Ange looks like he's building, not just a team for domestically, but to do some damage in Europe. And the thing I'm dreaming of is let's get through the group stages and let's progress around at least after Christmas in Europe. Once we do that, then I can dream. That's where the dream will start for me. Once we get through group stages and we win a knockout round, then I can start to dream.
Yeah. I tell you what, Jared, right? I don't know about fairy tales, but he's definitely solidifying himself as folklore in the Celtics history and stuff. I mean, it's a brilliant story, full stop, and he's definitely won over the fans completely, which is very rare for an unknown quantity to do. And I reckon the only time I'd ever use the term fairy tale is if he wins a European trophy, really, and that will just be that's blockbuster movie worthy, really. That's the goal we want. That's what we want to see, but it would be incredible. It's a hard task, but
any Americans watching that, if that happens, that would make the movie Rudy look like just the water boy.
Yeah.
It would be the biggest underdog victory since Rocky IV.
What's your take, Liam?
Yeah, the thing about Ange is that he is not just a brilliant manager; he's a brilliant man as well, and he's humble, he's compassionate, he is thoughtful. He's not afraid to raise his voice on potentially difficult issues like immigration and things like that, being an immigrant himself. And I think the fact that he from day one has taken no shit from the Scottish media means that even in that dark alternate reality out there somewhere where Celtic didn't win the league last season, Ange would probably still be in a job, because I think he'd built up such a good rapport with the fans that we would have been willing to give him 2 years to get it right. As it turns out, he got it right in about 9 months, but that's the incredible part of it. I think that Celtic as a club took a risk. We as fans not knowing. Now, obviously, Jared and I, we have the advantage of, you being Aussie and me watching the J League. We both knew that Ange was decent, but the majority of Celtic fans didn't. But they took to him and he took to us, and we've both been rewarded for that faith. Celtic fans love to say keep the faith, and that's exactly what we did last season, and we've been rewarded for it handsomely.
Yeah, the funny thing is, like, I had a chat when I said who should be the new Celtic manager in our group chat, and a guy responded saying Ange Postecoglou, and that was like in June or whatever. That was like May or June or something before he was appointed 2-3 months later. And I shrugged it off and laughed and said, yeah, no chance like that. And the reason I said no chance, Angela, I didn't think our board would actually do that, but absolutely wrapped that it happened. That's the only person I can say that called it. It wasn't me. One other person called it. So, yeah, good fun. Next question is from Graham Rowan. How is the publicity and merchandise getting on Celtic-wise for Ange coming home and in Japan? Let me try and reread that again. How's the publicity and merch getting on for Ange's homecoming and also in Japan? So down here, we're seeing a hell of a lot more coverage of Celtic. You got Optus Sports, you got Fox Sports, there's Code, there's about 3 or 4 different ones that are now covering it, plus your papers, which we used to get. If we're lucky, the only mention Celtic would get in the newspaper down here was, after a derby win. That was pretty much it. You wouldn't hear about Celtic, or if you get a mention of Tom Rogic is limped off injured in this game when they're doing their Socceroo recap. That was pretty much it in Celtic's 4-1 win against Aberdeen or something like that. That's what you'd see. And that was the only mention you'd get. And now we're getting full-on articles. We're getting 3 or 4 things a day. Fox Sports has gone absolutely stupid down here about, how good would Ange to Brighton be? Why would he do that? We'll discuss that later. But for me, it's like you're seeing those sorts of stories being reported. Every match is getting covered. It's so much easier to actually get coverage of the games down here. It's like night and day on what it was 2 years ago. And yeah, for the Sydney Super Cup, me and John were discussing before the pod about what the plans are for Sydney Super Cup. We'll be in town. We'll do a couple of podcasts when we're there. Probably do one on the Saturday before the game against Everton. I might try and be one of those guys outside the stadium with a microphone doing some recording if I'm allowed, or I can figure out where to store my stuff when the game's on. Be that wanker outside doing fan TV sort of thing, just to record some stuff for the podcast. And then I'm sure we'll be going back to a CSC again, have a sing-song, have a few drinks, and, who knows, might record something then or again on the Mondays. There'll be a few pods coming out that weekend for us as well, but looking forward to it. John?
Just be careful, Jared, when you said that wanker outside, there was that Rangers fan who took that literally, if you remember.
Yeah. Liam?
Yes.
We're playing Everton, not them, so I'm not worried to that guy.
A family-friendly podcast. Come on, Liam.
Sorry.
It's definitely not.
Wow. We're getting some absolute knobs in the comment here.
Yeah, I was seeing them. I definitely have noticed a step up in the merchandising as well. I've had people who don't regularly watch football, and coming up to me and talking about Celtic. Well, as soon as they find out I'm a Celtic fan, like people that I didn't even realise were interested in it, and just because they know that it's an Australian manager, big name manager Celtic, they want to come and talk to me about it, even if they don't know much about the team, and it's brilliant.
Do you know, it's a funny thing. I had an experience a bit like that last week at work. We were doing this thing where the parents are coming to pick up the kids after school, and it was like a kind of a drill for how to evacuate in the event of a disaster, right? So the parents come into the car park, pick up the kids and go out again. So I have to stand there and kind of guide cars in and out, right? Do my wee kind of traffic warden thing. And when I've done it before, I've heard what the guy who's organising say, just go over there past the big foreign guy, right? Because I'm the only non-Japanese. I just go up past the big foreigner, right? But last week it was like, go up past the guy in the Celtic top. I thought, there's a wee cultural change that's come in there, merchandising, honestly, Celtic are still well behind here. We should have our own dedicated Japanese, at least have our own dedicated Japanese distribution branch, which we don't. Anything we want to order has to be through the Celtic store, which takes 2 or 3 weeks to get here. I could go on Amazon right now and order a Bayern Munich or a Real Madrid shirt, and it'd be here tomorrow morning. You know,
We're still, do you know what? We're still a little bit old school like that, right? It's still
Aye.
kind of what we're talking about, which is kind of hearsay, I guess, or like it's like naturally diffused marketing and stuff. I don't know. I doubt you did, but I don't know if you guys saw Wolves' player announcement of Costa, Diego Costa. I don't know if you guys saw the video.
I didn't know.
Honestly, probably the best player reveal I've ever seen in my life. We don't really do stuff like that. We do little graphic stuff, but we need to be banging the drum really hard of Japan and Australia. And I feel like it's like you're saying, Jared. It's Fox Sports, it's Optus Sports, or it's beIN or whatever, and they're the ones banging about it. But it should be Celtic banging the drum, and we're just not doing
I've
that.
tried getting in touch with Celtic's PR department to get access when they're over here for the Super Cup. And I've got 3 or 4 people's email addresses and phone numbers and everything. And you ring, you leave a message, you send an email, whatever, and you get nothing. And
Yeah.
I don't expect to be treated any different, but I'm trying to get access. So when they're here, let's at least try and do something. If we can talk to Ange, or if we could talk to a couple of players, whatever. Or just
Yeah.
to get access to go watch them train and take some photos and get them to pose with the Celtic Down Under flag or whatever. I think Ange, I'd love to get a picture of Moy and Ange holding the flag. Like, that'd be perfect. Can't get a hold of the guys. I've even got the guys at Axom who know the guys at the club trying to help me, and we're getting nowhere. So
Yeah.
it's ridiculous. And then you got a couple of comments here. So Strachan's laptop, you'd think we'd be going full pelt selling merch in Japan. Absolutely, you would. And then Andrew Galea, exactly what I said.
Yep.
Shit for merch in Melbourne too. Exactly. It's hard to get it. Like, you go in a Myer or whatever, you go down in the basement, and it's all the EPL clubs, and it's plus Juventus, plus Bayern, plus Spanish clubs. You know, you're thinking
It's
Andrew
frustrating
down in
because
Melbourne would be able to get a Celtic top somewhere.
when we signed the Adidas deal, I thought, great, we've arrived, because I know that ever since Adidas has sponsored the Japanese national team, it's became a lot easier to get Japan tops over here. It used to be you had to order them from the JFA, whereas now it's like, Amazon, any Adidas shop, pretty much any sports shop. God, even the Celtic shop is now selling Japan tops, right?
Yeah.
But I would imagine that is something that Celtic are doing wrong rather than something Adidas are doing wrong, because the offer is probably there if Celtic just wanted to take advantage of it.
I can honestly tell you, it's not an Adidas thing, because I work in international freight forwarding, and one of my old customers at one of the previous job, I had looked after the global accounts, which I had Adidas was one of them. So I'd go out to their stores here, I'd see the shipments coming in. We had random football boots were being brought in, like for players over here who were sponsored on direct air flight. Nothing. You see Adidas bringing in tennis rackets and shoes for the Australian Open. No problem. You see soccer tops and that coming in for A-League clubs. No issue. I go out to their staff store, and there's all the Man United tops when they first went to Adidas. I could buy that in the actual Adidas staff shop with the people I was working with 3 weeks before it was released. So it's not an Adidas issue.
No,
It's
definitely
clearly
not.
Yeah.
Not good enough.
Yeah, because what you've said just kind of ties in with the research I've done at this end, is that Adidas is one of the best, not just one of the biggest brands, but also one of the best distributors of sportswear in the world in terms of the
100%.
logistics.
Really good at it, they are. So it's it's disappointing, but hopefully merch ramps up a bit in the next month so heap of people can buy it when they're out here. So I'm going to leave Shane's question till last, because that's to be expected. Boys 24/7, how long can we keep the unbeaten run going for in the league? So Ange had an Australian Sports League record of 36 games undefeated. He's beaten that at Celtic. Can we challenge the run we went on after in the Invincible season? What do you boys think? Is that a crack? Have a crack at that, or do you reckon there's going to be a slip up after a European game, or what are you thinking?
Yeah, I reckon the latter there, Jared. And I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. I don't think it's a capitulation. I think if you're playing Champions League on the Wednesday and you're playing at the weekend, you're bound to. Well, do you know, that's a really tough one to call. The amount of rotation that we've got, two players for every position, all that stuff, all those things we've been saying. Maybe not. Maybe we could beat the 69 games unbeaten, and the other side of Glasgow definitely fell off a cliff, which is always nice to see. So yeah, who knows? I don't think I wouldn't be if I was a betting man. I wouldn't say we would beat the 69 unbeaten, because I think that was pretty much like a once in a lifetime sort of thing. But I wouldn't be stupidly shocked if we did.
With that though, John, the 69 games, how many of the last, say, 20 of that were like sketchy when you're watching? You're like, oh no, it's going to be the one.
Really, yeah.
I'd say that last 15 or 20 games in particular, there was at least 4 or 5 there that I thought were lucky to pick up 3 points in.
Yeah, late winners or late draws and stuff.
Yeah.
It reminded me of watching the great AC Milan team of the early 90s. Like, they went, I think it was 2.5 years unbeaten in Serie A. But for about the last 6 months, it was all like, missed penalties and the other team missing a sitter in the last minute, whatever. They were really struggling. And that's what it was like for that final 5 to 10 games of that run. But at the moment, I could see us certainly dropping points after European games, maybe, drawing a game here or there. But up until a couple of weeks ago, I said the one team that might have beat us was Rangers, and we totally blew them away. And we didn't just beat them, we broke them. We've beaten them by heavier scorelines before, but I can't think of a time when they've come into a game more confident and left more utterly deflated. I mean, and should go down in history as the first Celtic manager in a long time to see off 2 Rangers managers and a Monarch. And there's the comment that gets me cancelled. All right, let's keep going.
All right. So Willie has said, with the current trajectory of the team, how difficult will it be to keep a hold of players like Hatate and O'Reilly and the main man, Big Ange? Well, we spoke about Hatate and O'Reilly already. Reason I'm reading this one, Big Ange, because of the Brighton rumours. Now, for me, I'm like, Brighton would be a step down. I think Chris Sutton said it best out of it all. I can see Ange moving on. I've said on Axom in the past, I've said on here in the past, Ange tends to only stay at a club 3-4 seasons. I don't see him being here for 10 years, 5 years, or whatever. But if he wants to stay as long as you want, mate. Like, you're doing a great job. However, I think Brighton is not the move for him. Ange is the sort, he keeps doing what he's doing in the league, does well in Europe. He's the sort where we'll probably end up having him for probably another this season, next season, which is 3, potentially 1 more. I still think that. And then I could see him moving on to a club like Dortmund or a club like at that sort of level. I don't see him going to a Brighton, or I don't see him going to, somewhere else down south, like a Southampton or something like that. No. He's the sort where he needs to be the man and build the project, and the way his teams play have to suit the club's structure. Ange coming here is the sort where it makes sense because we were open slate. He could come in and say, this is how we play, this is what we do, this is how we recruit, and go for it. If we went to Dortmund, they press hard and so on, they recruit the sort of players that he wants. That's why I could see that move working. Pappy in the comments is saying Man City will come calling. Wouldn't surprise me, to be honest with you, because he's been in their system before if Pep was to move on. So that's the sort of level. It's not going to be a Brighton.
Do you know what it is? And I know this because I grew up in it. It's English ignorance again, right? Or English football fans, right? It's people who go, well, Brighton's not one of the bigger teams. It's a smaller team down there. Well, who's doing well somewhere in another league? Oh, well, Scotland's just there, and they're definitely a smaller league than the English league. Therefore, any manager in the Scottish league will want to come to any team in the English. That's what it is. That's all it is. It's they've just found a manager elsewhere outside of who's found, who's doing half decent, and then there's the link. It's a nonsense. It's just a it's not a real link. Nobody's approached Ange. Nobody at Brighton's actually considering it. They couldn't get him if they tried. Basically, that's the bottom line. The only reason, sorry to go on a rant. The only reason why the Rat went to Leicester was because Leicester were considered an up and coming massive team at the time. Look, they've also fallen off a cliff, thank fuck. But that's the only reason why he went there. He would only have moved on to English League if it was considered a big team, and that's it. That's the only reason. So, absolute nonsense, arrogance.
I don't see Ange going to an English team because I don't think English football suits the way Ange does things. Ange is a guy, if you look at his record, he comes into a club, and he's actually done it remarkably quick at Celtic. Sometimes it takes about a year to 18 months for him to put his project together. Yokohama, it took him, I think, about 18 months to win that championship.
Second season is when it always kicks up a gear, and we're seeing that now where it's getting to another level this season. So,
yeah, but in the Premier League in England, you're not going to get that. If you have like 10 games and you don't win, you're out the door. Doesn't matter who you're with. I mean, look at Chelsea. Spent 200 million in the summer, then bagged the guy after 5 or 6 league games.
The best one in my opinion, Liam, Leicester City do a miracle win the league, and then after 8 games or something, they get rid of Ranieri.
Yes,
that shows the level of that league. Andrew Galea in the comments, he's gone. If I can get this comment to come up, was that's not the one I wanted to bring up.
Thank you, mate. Thank you.
He's not going anywhere yet. And then his follow-up was Celtic played Champions League. That was
very true.
And then we got Pucci the first. My question is, Kyogo Hatade Maeda have actually moved from Japan, if not for Ange?
They might have, but Ange definitely sweetened the deal. Ange definitely made it a lot easier. Given Celtic's past profile with Nakamura, they probably would have gone to Celtic had they been offered the opportunity. But if Ange wasn't here, they would probably never been offered that opportunity because they wouldn't be on Celtic's radar.
Yep. All right. Next question. James Murphy. Haksabanovic has looked really good when he has come on as a substitute. We need to see more of him. Therefore, I think he deserves a start. What are your thoughts on him starting on Wednesday or the weekend? For me, it'll be on the weekend. He won't start against Shakhtar, but he'll probably start on the weekend against St Mirren.
Yeah. Be a good option to have on the bench against Shakhtar, though, in case if we're chasing the game late on and we need a goal. He's the sort of guy that I think could come on and make things happen.
Imagine him coming off and Abada coming off the bench. If you went with Maeda and Jota out wide with Kyogo in the middle, or Giakoumakis, whichever you want, and then having those two wingers as Abada and him off the bench, there's some goals there.
Oh, aye, definitely.
All right, last two questions we got here. Actually, I put another one here. So, two more questions. So, Oz Football Gossip has asked, favourite Ange comment?
Oof.
My one, I'm going right back to this time last year when, someone asked Ange in the media, oh, you feeling any pressure or whatever, league, and he's like, are you called the league early, mate?
Yeah, caught it early here. Yeah.
That's still my best one because we ended up going on to win it and look at where everything is now, the lay of the land. Yep. Yeah. That's my favourite one.
I'm not an accountant, mate.
I love the use of mate. It's such an Australian thing.
Yeah. You could very much have replaced that with the C word quite strongly.
Correct.
Yeah, and we don't mean communist.
Comrade.
Paddy Lavery's one in the comments. Yeah, I've never owned a bus. Not my department, mate.
Yeah, there's another one, mate. Yeah.
I'm not from outer space, mate.
I remember that one. I liked his one about Robbie Nielsen a couple of weeks ago when the guy was talking about Ange being the only guy from last season that was still on a job, and he's like, well, Robbie Nielsen's still doing all right, mate.
I just love it when you end it with a mate. It's just
mate,
Aye.
It's It's one of those things. I don't know if, we in Australia, if you get called mate or champ or champion, you know you've done something wrong. You've messed up pretty bad.
Nobody does passive aggressive insults quite like Australians.
It's the best. Like if you come up, if I was walked out the front of my house and my neighbour goes, "Hey, Jared, you dropped the one or whatever," I'd be like, it'd be like, it depends the tone. It's like, hey mate, it's like aggressive, and it's like with mate, it's like your mate, like wanker over there, mate. Like what you're saying, or mate's like your buddy. It's like depends on the tone, but it's like nice and passive aggressive. Yeah, Pappy's like exactly what I'm saying. It depends how you say it, but it's just spot on. You throw it in there, and it's just the best.
Too many. There's too many to
mate. Yeah, mate.
Oh, mate.
Brilliant. All right, last one of these questions for us from Shane, who's been on the pod before. We'll get you back on again soon, Shane. Yeah, it's probably a predictable one for me, but keen on your respective takes on Tom Rogic landing at West Brom. I think it's a strange one.
Yeah,
I reckon I would have thought if he was going to go to England, he would have a club like even you look at a club like Southampton. I know it's a well-worn path from Celtic down there, but there's lower level Premier League teams where he could have played. Like if you look at it, Brighton, he would have done a job at. I said Southampton, Bournemouth, he'd be okay at. There's a bunch of those guys, but the fact that he's gone into the Championship, there's lots of games, and we know Tom and his body, he's not going to be able to play every week. But if you're playing 46 games for the season, he's a good rotation option to get minutes in his legs, hopefully get game time and fitness for the World Cup so he can try and qualify. He's been left out of the current Australian squad for the friendlies against New Zealand because he hasn't been playing. But he needs to play football if he wants to be at the World Cup. The thing that's odd to me is all the talk back here, and what we were hearing is he wanted to be closer to home because he's got, his missus, they've got a young kid on the way or a kid's been born or whatever. So he wanted to be closer to family. So when he was linked with Indonesia, it was like, okay. There was rumors of him going to Japan. There was rumors of him playing in Korea. There was rumors of him playing in Qatar. But the fact is that he's gone, a couple of hours down the road to play at West Brom. That just seems odd to me. Also, there was A-League clubs after him as well. And Andrew Gallagher's comment is the other thing. He'll get the shit kicked out of him in the Championship. Wouldn't surprise me. But what's your takes on it, Liam?
Well, I wonder if he just saw the Glasgow Derby a couple of weeks ago and thought, well, I want to be somewhere where I can still go up and watch the Celtic pump the Huns now and again, No, I think it reminded me a bit of the David Ginola situation back in the 90s where Celtic were supposedly in for Ginola and he said, no, sorry, Glasgow's too cold, and he goes and signs for Newcastle, Didn't quite make sense. But, no, I think it's... I don't think Rogic will be there for more than a year. I think he's there to get into the World Cup squad, play at the World Cup, and then after the World Cup, he might well just turn around and decide he's going back to Australia. I think the problem was if he went to Indonesia or the K-League or the J-League, it is of a lower standard. It's not as low as people make it out to be, but it is a lower standard than most European leagues. So it's probably not quite the level you want to be if you're going to be going to a World Cup. So I think West Brom is a lower level than he's capable of. I mean, I agree. He's an English Premier League player level player. But no, I think it's just a fitness and training one. He's basically doing what Aaron Ramsey did at Rangers last season.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So I got a couple of comments on this. So Andrew Galea, he must have taken too long to make a decision, and now he has to take what he's got. That could be it.
Maybe.
But then Vanessa's commented as well. She's saying, very strange with Tommy. Also, I don't know why he pulled out of the World Cup playoff against Peru. Apparently that was due to mental health issues with leaving Celtic and a few other things that were going on there, Vanessa. So I'm hoping he's in a good headspace now. He looks happy and he's awkward-looking West Brom colours. But good luck to him. Hope he does well. Gave us Celtic fans many, many great memories. Us Australian Celtic fans, one of the best memories of my life, watching Celtic at the CSC when, he went down when we, that goal against Aberdeen for the Invincible treble. Guy's just a class player, and all the best to him.
Just to expand on that, right? I think for me, that's why he's gone to a team like West Brom. I absolutely agree with you, Liam. I think he's a Premier League player. I think he's just gone. I think we sometimes do underestimate. We do to an extent. We do underestimate how much of a pressure it is to play like a team like Celtic. Every single fan who follows Celtic expects a win, and not just a win, but to win well. We can't. We could never have a manager like Mourinho where we just park the bus and win 1-0 or win 2-0 on a counter break. We're not going to enjoy that football. We're not going to take that, right? So not only do we expect to win every single game, we expect to be playing well. That's a lot. If you've been at a club like Celtic for nearly 10 years, to always have that type of pressure, and he's got other stuff going on, maybe he just wants to go to a team where there isn't much pressure. He can play well. There's not huge expectations on him, because I think West Brom's mid-table championship, so they ain't pushing for a promotion. So, maybe he just wants a pleasant life and sort of what will probably be in the last 3 to 4 years, the end of his career. So, yeah, I don't think it's that bizarre. I wasn't that shocked, if I'm honest. I mean, like you're saying, Jared, I kind of saw him going somewhere like Indonesia or Korea or something like that as well, for the exact same reasons.
I thought he was going to stay in Europe, he'd be in Italy. I thought that'd be a good spot for him. But what you're saying there, John, makes good sense, because, if you're at Celtic, the pressure on, if you have a 5 out of 10 performance, you're getting all sorts of pelters online. Like, you look at a guy like Greg Taylor. He's been building up. 2 seasons ago under Lenny, he was copping it. And I don't even think he was, that whole team was bad. And he was one that people were picking out because he wasn't Kieran Tierney. So for me, I look at it and go, the pressure is, if you're a 6 out of 10 or you're or a 5 out of 10, you question, why are you only doing that? Because, we're only playing against Ross County. You should be absolutely dominating. So the pressure that we put on our players sometimes is a little over the top, but that's part of playing at Celtic. You're going to wear those hoops. That's part and the parcel. We expect a lot because that's what we give a lot as a fan base.
Look, at the end of the day, Tom Rogic and Nir Beaton both were outstanding servants to Celtic, and they both owed us nothing. And wherever they decided to go next, they go with my unconditional support. I think that's all I can really say to it.
As we said when they were both leaving, Liam, if they had left before Ange's first season at the club, we would have been like, yep, hooroo, see you later, off you go. You've been at the club a while, we won't miss you. But then after last year, they both kind of had that renaissance with the support, where it's like Tommy Rogic playing with us, and it's like, okay, we see what you've got. You've done well, Tommy. Have your moment. See you later.
Hi.
Love you as a fan base.
Go on a high. That's what you
want. We were constantly trying to make him a centre back. He spent last year playing him as an actual defensive midfielder in his proper position, and we realised how good he actually was. And you're just like, okay, thanks for everything. On you go. And I'm going to bring up a comment here to leave this topic on there. Paddy Lavery, Tom Rogic is West Brom's greatest ever player.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's a joke. Adam in the comments is actually giving a proper response to that. So, all right. So we'll quickly preview the 2 games. So Celtic versus Shakhtar Donetsk in the Champions League. We're playing him over in Warsaw. Got a comment here from Mark Duffy from way earlier in the pod. I have high hopes for tonight. We've already played at this ground, and Shakhtar will play there for the first time. Mudryk and Shred are my only worry.
Yeah, Mudryk's a good player.
Yeah. So for me, I think it's a winnable game. It'll be interesting to see what the crowd's like, because there's a lot of Ukrainians in Poland, and they're apparently giving them show your passport, get a ticket. That's what they were doing a bit. So to support them, to show some support. That's what I heard. I don't know how accurate that is, but Twitter, you see some sort of crap on there. But if that's what it is, then great. But it will be interesting to see what the crowd's like. If we go the way we played against Real Madrid and go at that level again, it's all about, there you go, Kevin Graham, there's only 2,000 tickets left yesterday. So, yeah, if we can get out early, score an early goal or two, put the pressure on them and see how we go, I'm thinking we can get the win. For me, I'm saying, 2-1, 3-1 sort of range. Andrew in the comments is saying we need to go at them early. I reckon we'll be up 3-0 at half time. That's a bit adventurous for me, but they are a good team. Even though they've lost a whole bunch of players, they've still got some quality there. So, and when your backs are against the wall, sort of thing, it's us against the world, sort of thing. They haven't been playing at home for ages. They're playing in a different country. Blah blah blah. There's a whole bunch of stuff that can happen. So, what do you think, Liam?
Maybe it's just the way my twisted mind works, but when you said, it's like show a Ukrainian passport, get a ticket, I was just wondering how many Dynamo Kiev fans are going to go in there and support Celtic. But no, in all seriousness, I think it'll be a closer game than a lot of people are predicting. I think we can win. I think a draw would be acceptable at this stage because any kind of point away in the Champions League is always a good result. But I said on Axom last week that I thought Celtic would win 3-1, and I'm going to stick with that. But obviously, Shved is going to score for Shakhtar because that has to happen.
It's written in the stars, isn't it?
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'll echo Liam's comments there because that's exactly how I feel as well. I would, I think it was Mark who made the comment. I would err on the side of caution with having high expectations. I think both Celtic fans and Shakhtar fans both expect to get 6 points from each other in these games. I think we both kind of see these games as whoever wins these might come second or third sort of thing. And I don't think we should take these guys as mugs at all. They beat Leipzig. They are unbeaten so far. They play very, very intense attacking football. From what I can tell, they always play 4-1-4-1. So, they've got weaknesses there. The second, if you can get them on the break or whatever, then you could be 5v4 sort of thing. But again, all the comments I think are justifiable. Like Shved couldn't make it for us, playing regularly for them. They've lost a lot of players playing away. All those things I think are really good factors to take into consideration. But I think of course we can win it. We could have beat Madrid, and I'm not even exaggerating there. If we scored the first 2 goals, we could have won that game. So of course we could beat Shakhtar. We just have to be on it. I think maybe 3-2 or a one goal difference, but it's going to be a good game. I think. I don't think it's going to be a one team smashing out the other. To be honest,
there are 2 teams that are good to watch for the neutral, if there is such a thing. I think it's going to be a really entertaining game, whatever the score is.
For sure, I think that's a given.
Cool. Yep. All right, so we'll discuss that on next week's pod, and then we've also got the game against St Mirren on Sunday. So we won't really get into that too much, the predicted starting lineups, matchups, all that sort of stuff, because as you all know, Celtic Down Under, we've partnered up with the Celtic State of Mind for the match day coverage, so we get involved with games. So this weekend on the Celtic State of Mind YouTube channel and on our Twitter account, the pre-game, halftime, and post-match coverage will be on. And Celtic Down Under's running the whole damn show. So it's going to be me, Liam, Sean. I don't know if John's available or not, but we'll all be on there doing that. So we'll talk about that game in the preview on that channel there. But yeah, I'm saying we'll win the St Mirren game. I'll just leave it at that, and I'll give my score prediction pre-game, or we can give a quick score prediction now if we want, and then go again later on the weekend.
For the St Mirren or for the next game?
Oh, St Mirren game.
I think we're going to absolutely fucking romp St Mirren. 5-0.
4-0.
That's it.
4-0. I think we'll be a wee bit tired after Shakhtar.
Yeah, right. Fair enough.
Fair enough.
Just a little bit, though. Just a little bit, yeah.
Fair enough. Yeah. For me, just a lazy 7.
You're gonna call them again, mate. You're gonna call them. We're gonna get a 9 or whatever it was, or a 10-0. No, 10-0.
Just a lazy 7 because we'll rotate the whole squad and we've got 2 full starting 11s and we'll go from there. So yeah,
all I'm saying is this is my third. This could be my third match day thing with Axom, and the current score after 2 games is 13-0 to Celtic on aggregate. So
yeah.
Me and Liam last time we were on Axon doing a match day together, it was 9-0. So
yeah.
Pressure's on Celtic, get it done.
Yeah.
All right. So what we'll do, boys, is we'll wrap the podcast up. Thanks to everyone for tuning in. If you haven't already done so, please hit that subscribe button, whether it's through the YouTube channel or on your podcast app. You can find us on Instagram and Twitter at Celtic Down. And you can join our Facebook group or like our Facebook page. Other than that, we'll go to our final thoughts and, get out of here and let everyone go about their day. So, Liam, what's your final thought?
How can I put this?
Here we go.
No. I'm trying to be diplomatic here. Let me think. Right. Okay. So, respect is earned. It's not automatic. And no matter what you are told to do in the media or on the telly over the next week or so, do not feel that you have to show respect to people you don't respect. And do not feel that you owe someone you've never met any kind of show of false grief. I'll leave it at that.
Yes,
John?
I agree. All right, well, I'm doing my music recommendations, as I've been doing all this season. And I obviously, with the theme of this week's events, this band is a Canadian rock band, because obviously I like my rock music, that's my thing. If you like Rush, if you like Led Zeppelin, if you like Greta Van Fleet, you'll absolutely love this band. Fittingly, they're not called Queen, they're called Crown Lands, which I thought was quite a thing. And actually, and they're called Crown Lands for the exact reason why you think they are. It's actually a duo, right? It's only 2 people, but it sounds like they play multiple instruments. One of them is an Indigenous Canadian, so obviously a lot of his themes are his stolen lands. So he's reclaiming the name. So honestly, great band, up and coming. Like I said, if you like Rush, Led Zeppelin, you'll absolutely love them. Give them a listen.
Nice. My final thought is a personal one. Finally had my wisdom teeth ripped out, which I've been carrying and trying to get done for the last 5 months. So just want to thank my wife for her support and, looking after me in my recovery. So thanks for that. And, chat to you all next week. Hail, hail.
Hail, hail.
Hell.